Hey, good morning, y'all. Josh's Severe Weather. We've got a couple of big storms moving across the country this week to talk about, and I'm going to share my screen and show you exactly what we are looking at here. Massive cold dropping south and west behind a storm that's going to bring severe weather to potentially 40 to 50 million Americans here this week, a large area that is under a slight risk in the next couple of days, and I'm going to break that down for you. And it warming right back up here in the southeastern US. I went for a walk yesterday in Raleigh and I've got pollen allergies now on the 13th of February. Normally it doesn't start till March for me. So some extremes we're definitely seeing here for sure. Hope y'all are having a great Valentine's Day with your loved ones. And I've got a forecast you'll love today in the southeast, in the north, and in the western US. A little bit different as we've got some pretty cold weather and some pretty unsettled weather to talk about here. So let's get right to it. The Storm Prediction Center out of Norman has an area of thunderstorms developing with storm number one today and a marginal risk for severe weather in the Kansas City area and in eastern Kansas and far southeastern Nebraska. Not going to be a huge deal, but there could be some hail out of these storms, a 5% risk. That'll be later this afternoon, and a 5% chance for some severe wind with gusts over 60 miles per hour. Also, a 2% chance for a tornado. So, again, not a major risk, but something we'll have to keep an eye on as storm number one moves through. Now, the second storm is going to be a bigger deal for us in the south. And we've got 15 million people in a slight risk tomorrow from the Metroplex on into Memphis. I don't think this is going to be a massive outbreak of severe weather. There are some uncertainties in the models that I'll show you, but there will be the risk for a few tornadoes. That's something I am concerned about. Maybe a couple of stronger tornadoes as well in parts of northeast Texas, sneaking into Louisiana and southern Arkansas later at night, tomorrow night. Of course, nighttime tornado warnings are definitely a concern to anybody, so that's something you guys should be prepared for. Maybe the bigger risk, though, is going to be for storms that can produce some strong winds, maybe winds over 65 miles per hour. And the area that is in the slight risk all could see that severe weather. Will everybody see it? Probably not. But I do think this whole area needs to be vigilant for the risk for severe weather. And also, we could have some intense hail earlier in the evening around the Dallas-Fort Worth area and on up into the southern and central parts of Oklahoma. So around Ardmore and on eastward as we get towards the Cherokee Reservation, that region there. Now, as we get into the day on Thursday, this looks scarier than I think it's going to be, just to be honest with you guys, but nonetheless, I think you should be prepared as we've got over 30 million people in a slight risk on Thursday for severe weather. I don't know if there'll be an upgrade coming to enhance risk at this point. There's still a lot of uncertainty in the models. We've got instability, but we don't have as much as you would like to see for a major outbreak. So I don't want to scare everybody in the South and in the Ohio Valley at this point, but definitely be ready because there is a strong front moving through that'll have a lot of wind with it. And I do think if there could be some tornadoes, the southern part of this region is the area I'm most concerned with. Major tornado outbreak at this point, I don't think that's likely to happen, but I would be on the lookout anywhere in this region, even into southeast Louisiana, but especially Mississippi and Alabama, and maybe more of a widespread wind event farther north and east. So a pretty big area that's got this slight risk. It's very rare in February that we have a slight risk from Ontario and New York State down to the Gulf Coast. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen that happen really in February. So definitely going to be something we're going to be watching here. Now, here are the two storms we're talking about. Number one, over the panhandle of Oklahoma this morning. That is going to spread northeastward very quickly into Iowa this evening. We'll have rain and a few thunderstorms along and ahead of it. And as that storm deepens, we'll likely see some more intense snow on the colder side of the storm from Minnesota down into Nebraska. There are blizzard warnings in effect, mainly for tonight, as we will have strong winds of 40 miles per hour on the backside of this low with snowfall rates over an inch per hour, creating dangerous travel conditions. So be prepared for that. That storm is going to move across the Great Lakes into Canada and weaken. The next storm is going to be more intense. That is producing some interior western snow right now, snow all the way down to the mountains north of Phoenix this evening, and western parts of western and southern parts of Colorado, northern New Mexico, and then onto the high plains as we get to tomorrow. We'll see quite a bit of snow and some wind-driven snow and drastic temperature drops as well with an intense front that's going to be developing and moving south and east. So as we get to tomorrow night, we'll see those intense storms developing here in the southern plains and then spreading eastward into Tennessee overnight. We'll also see heavy snow developing in northwestern parts of Kansas into south central Oklahoma or Nebraska I swear, I know the difference. I was born in Oklahoma. Nebraska, as we get to Wednesday night, and especially overnight, change over to some snow around Kansas City on up into Iowa here by Thursday morning. This will produce a widespread region of snow, but because of the strength of this low pressure and the amount of warmth coming out of the Gulf, this is likely going to be rain here again in the Northeast, all the way up into Maine. And snow is going to be primarily over the upper Midwest, the Central Plains, and eventually into southeastern parts of Canada, Quebec, and Ontario, with maybe some wintry mix here early Friday morning around the St. Lawrence Valley, so some freezing rain. This will also produce some widespread heavy rain from the front from Ohio and southwest Ontario all the way down to the Central Gulf, where there will be intense wind. And Friday, this moves through very quickly in the morning across the Northeast. There'll still be some rain into the afternoon in the Southeast, but not a big rain event like we saw with this past weekend storm. This storm is moving pretty quickly, so we're not going to see a ton of rain out of it, but there will be thunderstorms. And then by the weekend, sharply cooler weather again across the eastern U.S. But this weekend looks great compared to last weekend for much of the country, except for the Northwest. So there is a silver lining for you guys here. Temperature anomalies, you can see how warm it is here across the plains today, and that warmth expands into Canada, where temperatures could be 40 degrees above the average in Quebec and Ontario. Just very mild air tonight, tomorrow. At the same time, much colder than average weather follows the front, so drastic temperature changes here. And we are going to see some very bitterly cold weather dropping down into the west here on Wednesday and into Thursday. And that cold continues to expand east, but weakens some with intensity as we get to Friday and Saturday. It's not going to last too long, though. You can see this area is already warming right back up. Just very changeable weather here. Here are your temperature forecasts. You can see that warmth expanding into the Great Lakes. We're looking at 40s in the upper Midwest today, but much colder back across western prairies of Canada, and sub-zero temperatures will follow that storm into the Dakotas here, especially by tomorrow night into Thursday morning. Very cold across the west, very warm in the southeast with 60s, 70s, even 80s in Florida. And that mild air expands up the East Coast. So New York City will be up to about 60 degrees at daybreak on Friday. And then it gets much colder as the day wears on Friday. We're back into the 50s in the afternoon, 40s in the evening, 30s at night, and 20s by Saturday morning. So New York City goes from 60 for a daybreak temperature Friday to about 28 degrees for a daybreak temperature on Saturday, 27 degrees for Saturday. So yeah, we're going to see 30 to 40 degree temperature changes in just 24 hours. Quite a bit of a dynamic storm here. Let's talk about the severe weather chance. We do have some instability building up into Texas and Oklahoma tomorrow evening into the Arklatex, and then spreading up the Ohio Valley here for Thursday. It's not going to be a ton of instability. So what does form is mainly going to get fueled by strong winds aloft. So we're not looking at a huge region of strong tornadoes. We're in fact looking at a broken squall line, which will have maybe a few segments of damaging winds with it, and maybe a tornado or two. But the area of the biggest instability Thursday afternoon is in the central Gulf Coast region. So Mississippi, Alabama, maybe even sneaking into western Florida. So again, I don't think this is a widespread severe weather outbreak. And as we get to Thursday night, Friday morning, we lose all that instability in the Carolinas. And yeah, it's in Florida, but we don't really have enough lift to get things rolling in Florida. So this is really going to be primarily the south central states that have to deal with severe weather, but there is enough instability for some locally damaging winds all the way in Ohio and Indiana here on Thursday. And the NAM 3 kilometers shows you the radar. Storm 1, a large area of rain, blossoms today into tonight, but doesn't have a lot of severe weather with it. More of a big snowmaker on the backside as we get to later tonight. Storm 2 comes out of Colorado into Kansas tomorrow afternoon. Then we see storms developing towards the evening around North Texas and Oklahoma, and heavier snow rates starting to form in northeastern Kansas and northwestern Missouri. And that big area of snow expands eastward with the thunderstorms. So we've got a strong contrast here where downstate Illinois is dealing with stronger storms here Thursday morning. Upstate is dealing with heavy snow, and Chicago sees kind of a light wintry mix going to snow later in the afternoon on Thursday. And Thursday night, it will be snowing in the Chicagoland area. You can see our significant tornado parameters not super high today in this region, but something we'll keep an eye on. A bigger chance as we get to tomorrow across northeast Texas, and then expanding into Louisiana and Arkansas, and then on the wane as we head to Thursday morning. We could see another kind of an uptick in potential tornadic activity down in here Thursday afternoon, but this is not going to be a massive outbreak, at least at this time. Total precipitation, you can see, we'll see an inch or so of rain out of Storm 1. Storm 2 is going to pile that on, and we've got quite a bit of rain across the Ohio Valley here heading into Thursday, and maybe some heavy rain as well in the southern parts of the Carolinas into the southeast. But this is not going to be widespread flooding for anyone, fortunately. The snow, though, will be pretty significant, with band number 1 expanding this direction from Nebraska up into Ontario. A few inches likely, but the bigger band comes in farther south from Colorado into southern Wisconsin and northwest Illinois. That expands into southeastern Canada here Thursday night, Friday morning. And we'll see out west quite a bit of snow coming, 1 to 2 feet likely in the Four Corners region. Across the central part of the country, you see that heavy snow expanding up into Nebraska. Omaha could see 9 or 10 inches of snow, Des Moines 7 to 8, and then southwestern Wisconsin would see 3 to 6 inches of snow out of these next two storms. Expanding that north and east, we still see some heavy snow getting into Wisconsin, but the heaviest stays north and west of Milwaukee. There could be about 4 inches in Milwaukee, but 7 to 8 around Madison, and 8 to 9 inches around Sheboygan and into parts of upper lower Michigan as well. And in Canada, we're going to see quite a bit of snow here the next few days. We're looking at between 18 and 30 centimeters of snow expanding from northeast Ontario into parts of Labrador. So a big storm for us here to deal with. And I'm going to break down more tomorrow what I think the models are going to show us as far as severe weather goes and any changes to the snow forecast. But I thank you for your time today. And please, if you could, like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would definitely appreciate that. And I want to give all the glory to God. He spoke to me last night. I actually read this verse, Philippians 4:6. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. If those of you are worrying, just know that the Lord is there to answer those requests and allow him to hear you. And I know I need to tell myself this every day as a child of God. So if you have any prayer requests, I am happy to pray for you. I'm a firm believer that I've been called to do this by God through his son, Jesus Christ, who gives us eternal life. I really thank you all for your time. I hope you have a blessed Valentine's Day with your loved ones. I know you'll love the forecast in the southeast. But get ready as the colder air and the storms are coming once again here the next few days. I'll see you all tomorrow. Take it easy.